and welcome to Conscious and Curly, a place for the human experience. I'm your host, Angelica, and welcome to another week. We can run through a quick little catch-up. I hope all is well with everybody. I actually went to the coast last week when last week's episode uploaded. I uploaded that from the coast. The little Texas coast is like 2 hours from my house. It was amazing, and everything I didn't know I needed, and it was perfect. And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to the couple that lent me their Airbnb. I'm grateful to my mom for watching my kid, and it was amazing. Honestly, my favorite part of the whole time, the whole vacation was not having any type of time restraints. Like, I took a nap every single day. I never set an alarm for my naps, which I always do if I take a nap. I didn't have to be anywhere at any time. I just did what I wanted when I wanted. I did yoga on the pier every morning with my tea. It was just perfect. It was lovely. And so this is a sign for you to take a break. If you've been thinking about it, if you feel like it's something that's on your heart, if you're listening to this and like, man, there's so many things around me happening right now that are telling me to rest, listen to it. And coming from me, I'm a person who never listens to it. So I'm sharing with you, do as I say. No, do as I do, because I did rest. So you rest too. Yeah. And then when I got back on a Friday. Actually got into a little fender bender that was not a good time. And the guy actually kind of hit on me, shot his shot, let it be known that he thought I was attractive right before we got back in our cars to leave. And it was sweet. I guess it was a nice gesture. I don't know. I was dealing with a lot. Didn't feel like the time was right. So if you're listening to this, guys, I don't know. But I also understand, get in where you fit in. So I'm not mad at it. But the fender bender was okay. It's working itself out. I also had a massage on Sunday. I got back Saturday, did mom, kid stuff, getting back from vacation Saturday. And then Sunday, I actually had a massage. It was so nice. And I did a hot stone massage. That was my first time doing that. Another highly recommend. If you like heat or different sensations during a massage, because I don't think it's for everybody, but I loved it. I think I'm going to only get hot stone massages from now on. It was amazing. And then went to a kid party after a massage. I don't know if I recommend that. It was kind of cool. I don't think I was as high strung as I usually would be at a kid's birthday party, but it was a fun time. I love my kids being able to get together with other kids and have a good time, especially on somebody else's dime. That's always nice. Or when you just have to pitch in a little bit. Yeah, I guess that's it for the catch-up. It was great. That's my problem, I feel. I guess it's not a problem. But what I don't know, a concern of mine with recording weekly is that I have nothing to talk about. I don't have any content to bring as far as what's going on in my life. Just I was a mom again, had a good time with my kids. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me overthinking things. Who knows? I do like to have weekly episodes. I like to have, and honestly, I have enough topic discussions in my brain and my planner to really drop weekly. I just worry about my life not being interesting enough, but maybe that's a sign to me to make life more interesting and to get out and do some things. Maybe we'll take it as a sign for that. Oh yeah, shout out my co-host, some wine. So yeah, this week we can go ahead and get into our food for thought. This is a rant. Okay, let's go back into the catch-up. A random idea. And no, I'm not going to go there. I might go there in another episode. Gather my thoughts. I got a rant about something, and I'm trying to figure out how I want to say it and the timing. But tune in for Angelica's rant coming up on a future episode. Not sure when, but I got some things to say. Back to our food for thought. I actually got this food for thought from my boss. So shout out to him because I really appreciate learning any little tidbits of information. And one day in a meeting, I was cold. I'm usually always cold. Specifically in meetings, our one conference room is cold to me. There's a lot of information, but he dropped some knowledge on me that I did further research on for all of us. So did you know that women's hands really are colder than men's? According to medicalexpress.com, women have more body fat and less muscle than men. The fat protects the vital organs, including the uterus, but it also restricts blood flow to the extremities. So women, I feel like I'm always cold. I'm also anemic. I always just chalk it up to that. I feel like a lot of my female counterparts, other females I know, also feel cold a lot. So if you do and you're like, man, are women colder than men? Now you know. They really are. And now you know why. Because we got a uterus. Shout out to us. And now with that, we can go ahead and get into the topic. And this topic is kind of something I've just been observing. I mean, I guess every topic is just something I've been observing or something I noticed that I feel we wanted to talk about. I really don't like to discuss current events because I do that already in like my day-to-day life with people. And I feel like there's so many people talking about current events. And so we just recycle the same type of stories and ideas. And I kind of want to bring something fresh, maybe something you can take to your friends for their perspective. So yeah, something I've been observing. I have a lot of my friends and myself are single, and in this dating world, I was going to call it another thing, but I'm really working on back to power of language, like not using negative things for even my current situation. So we won't call it a cesspool, but this dating pool. And I noticed that I don't know, there's what has come up recently, at least like a pattern that's come up recently is, or a similarity that I've noticed, is people choosing potential over patterns. Most of us say exactly what we really mean, and most of us do what we really intend to do. But if it's someone you're interested in or someone that you're trying to gain their interest, I notice a lot of people will choose to ignore it or choose to not see it for what it is or give it space to mean something else. Specifically when said statement or action doesn't align with you. Or if you were to actually like state set some boundaries, you know that person would cross the boundaries because you know it's something that doesn't align with them. And I just noticed so many people ignore these patterns while dating somebody and then end up in a serious relationship, even married eventually. And these patterns continue to come up. And it ends up being something that's a breaking situation when I feel in reality it could have been avoided. And I'm not saying don't waste your time, because I really don't think relationships are a waste of time. And I really think that the people come into our lives for reasons and that there's something to gain from every experience. However, we as people, I think, need to continue to grow and need to get to our best selves. And I think a part of that is breaking away from these habits and challenging ourselves to respond differently or to even observe our own behaviors and patterns and things that we're willing to forgive or set aside for a potential instead of what is and seeing what is. I've done this myself before when I was dating, and now I notice those situations arise and I'm aware of how I would have responded before, because I can feel my inner child. I can feel my natural self that's been responding that way for 30 plus years being like, oh yeah, so when they do that, we just ignore. And for me now, challenging myself, I have to be like, no, we see this for what it is. He said exactly what he meant, and that doesn't align with me. So I need to see it for what it is. We can have a conversation about this and figure out where we should go from here. But I'm at a space where I'm done ignoring those things and ignoring patterns, and I'm hyper aware to patterns because there's so much to see in patterns. And when I use the term patterns, because I want us to see that it's just the makeup of really any type of element in this world. Plants have patterns. The seasons of each year has patterns. Even the way society behaves as a whole has patterns. There's patterns in so many things. And I just invite you to look deeper into that and recognize even your own patterns. Notice, like, something that just comes to my mind real quick that I can think of as like, I consider it a pattern of people that we have actually adapted and acknowledge as a society is seasonal depression. That is a pattern of people that during a certain season, they get depressed, they feel lonelier, they are more inclined to be antisocial and more inclined to maybe gain weight, maybe drink more during this time, just different things, and recognizing that about themselves and being open, like, yeah, this is a pattern of mine. I have seasonal depression. I think that we can do that with every single aspect of our lives and every single moment and just anything. And I honestly feel like doing that, like I said, gets you closer to your highest self. When you can recognize the patterns in the trees outside or the patterns in the moon. I am highly connected to the moon, and I strengthen and nurture that connection because of the power that I believe in the moon. But I recognize the patterns of the moon with that connection. And with that, I know how it affects me. And I can, instead of just going through life and not knowing why you feel what you feel or just allowing yourself to feel what you feel, you can have a better grip on yourself and know where the root really comes from and have more control over it. You don't have to let your emotions control you. I can be in seasonal depression and still just know, like, all right, I got to work a little harder to get out of bed for the next 6 weeks and do that. And I even have to do that in this season of back to fucking school, because that's where we are right now. And I totally forgot how emotionally and mentally exhausting the mornings are of having to be that cheerleader and getting us all like three of us ready for the day and keeping our spirits up. And even when they're getting frustrated when things aren't going their way, saying it's okay and trying to make sure they stay positive because their day's going to be affected. And that's really draining. And it hit me yesterday on my way to dropping them off, and it was a lot. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember how this feeling is. But I also remembered my oldest goes with his son every week, thank God. And I get a little bit of a break. And I remembered how grateful I am for that time that I'm down to just one kid, and how good that feels and what that little bit of a break is like for me and how I take advantage of that. And just reminded myself of that and was like, oh yeah, that's the season that I'm in. And now knowing that, I can be better prepared for it versus it just knocking me over and being like, dang it, I don't know why all the time in August and September, I feel like this when taken into school. Instead, I can know like, this is exactly what it is. And with that, you can just push that shit aside and really deal with other shit of life, because there's so much in life that we got to deal with. And we spend so much time, well, a lot of us don't spend time focusing on our own issues, but our issues spend so much time taking over and being in control of our life. And if we can set that shit aside and truly own it, control it, have a sense of it, and know the root of it, understand ourselves better, we can set that aside and really deal with life. Anyway, that's how I feel about patterns. I went on to a whole little tangent on patterns, but I really just wanted to break patterns down and why I use the term patterns versus like habits or true colors or different things like that, because I think that it's synonymous throughout like every part of the universe. And if you don't know already, or if you don't have the app already, there is an app. This is not an ad. This is not sponsored, but if you want to sponsor me, hit me up. There is an app called Pattern, and that app is based on all of your astrological things, your birth date, the coordinates of where you were born, and the time. And it's so interesting though how right on it is, like specifically to you, because it has that information that is really only specific to you. But with that, it gives you the birth chart. And with the birth chart, they basically give you in layman's terms your pattern. And like I said, it's always spot on. And if not, it's just interesting to read or maybe get a perspective. But if you don't know where to start or how to even start observing yourself, that kind of gives you like an outside look at yourself. It's somebody else saying, hey, you do this, or do you notice these things? Or maybe you feel this way today and it's because of this. And it's just a start to maybe start learning yourself, start noticing your own patterns, because I really feel that with that is how you get solid with yourself and how you really know who you are. You really know what's important to you. You really know that this shit is a pattern and it's not, I'm looking at the potential over the pattern right now. Or just noticing like this is a pattern and I just don't want to deal with this. And I'm not saying like cut everybody off so easily, but at least know who you are to recognize these things and to choose patterns over potential. And that's just where I want us all to be. I would love for this dating pool to get a little better and a little more quality. So that's a little tidbit of like information or perspective of how I think we all could just get better as people individually, and as well as like when trying to form these relationships and when dating, and saving ourselves time, saving ourselves cycles and patterns that we just really don't want in our lives. Yeah. So that's my take and my idea and perspective this week of potential over pattern. Let me know what you think. Let me know if this is something that you notice in yourself or you notice in others, or patterns. If you even want to just share some patterns that you notice with yourself, I would love to have that conversation. I'm trying to think of some patterns of me just off the top of my head. A pattern of mine that I'm trying to get better at is when receiving unwarranted or unsolicited advice, to assume positive intent. Like to assume that the person is giving this from a positive standpoint. They're really intending this to be positive feedback, because I just don't like unsolicited anything. Unsolicited dick pics, unsolicited advice, unsolicited salespeople. I'm not a fan of it. So I'm working on, I guess, changing that pattern, because it is something I recognized, and I didn't like it. And so I'm trying to change it. Yeah, that's a pattern of mine. What's a pattern of yours? So yeah, that's just, sorry if you guys had to hear that. That's just the topic this week. And with that, we can go ahead and get into our next segment, which is Anonymously Kinky. I really appreciate people writing in and asking questions this week. You guys heard I had no questions last week, and you came through for your girl, and I really appreciate it, because I hate coming up here and being like, nobody's writing me, but I think people are listening, or I got no questions, but I have this whole segment where I can't ask her questions. So answer questions. So I love that you guys are actually responding and engaging. And thank you to those who have dropped questions. If you have an anonymously kinky question or would like to ask for any advice, tips, tricks, anything regarding sex, fetishes, or kinks anonymously, you can DM me on Instagram at conscious_curly, and I will keep you anonymous. So let's get into it. Question 1. I love being the person in the bedroom that gives pleasure to my partner. Toys, going down, massages, initiating, etc. But sometimes I want to be on the other side of that role, pretty much sit back and enjoy getting pleased. My wife knows this, and we have worked on it together for years, but she just can't seem to get out of her head about it. She gets too self-conscious and says she feels silly, or quote, silly, because she doesn't know what she's doing. Any tips? Yeah. This is honestly probably one of my favorite things about sex, or aspects when it comes to sex, is making people feel comfy in the act. Comfort is so important, because I believe it's when you perform the best. I believe it's when you receive the best, like as in you're the most open to receive pleasure. And with that, I believe you have the best experience. And I think that's the purpose of sex, is to have the best experience. So this is like one of my favorite things, is like trying to help people feel comfy. And everybody's always in their head about sex. Always. It's a thing. And and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we care about the person that we're with, or even if we don't, even if it's a stranger, you care about maybe it's ego. You care about how they're going to feel about you and this experience. And so you want to you want it to be good. And a lot of us are in our head about that. As far as like being in your head when it comes to like initiating or being more of a take charge kind of role, I highly recommend just doing what you would want to have done to you. I think that's a start. If you, as a woman trying to initiate things with a man, I also think of what is sexy, like what I would like to see if I was watching a sex scene in a movie, or if I've seen a porn and I saw somebody do something that I was like, wow, she looked really sexy doing that. I like to feel sexy, specifically during sex. And when I feel sexy, that also just helps my comfort. It helps your confidence. It helps your comfort. So I think thinking about or trying to create an atmosphere that like you would want or that you think is sexy. If you're sitting on the couch now this is me giving advice to the wife. So pass this along to your wife if she doesn't listen. But maybe like if you guys are sitting together on the couch, I think she could just turn to you, straddle you, and start making out with you. That's a way of initiating. And from there, just keep going. And I think in that she would feel sexy and she would realize like, wow, this is kind of cool. And again, I say do things that you would want. If she's in a moment where she's like, man, I really wish he would kiss me right now, or I wish we would start doing things, she should do that. Or if she likes more romance when it comes to like foreplay and things leading up to sex, maybe start with like softly touching you or softly caressing your arm or your hand, or even moving to like your leg or your inner thigh, doing things to let you know that she's interested and she's trying to initiate. I think just baby steps with that and starting small can help her just start to build her own confidence in herself, to see like, oh, I can do this. I can get what I want. I don't have to sit and wait for him to give it to me. I'm glad you guys have expressed this and you've talked about this and it's something you guys are working on. I think that's always most important in any type of relationship, especially if you're having like issues in the bedroom. But yeah, I guess start with that. I say make yourself feel sexy. Do what she would want you to do to her. And let me know how it goes. And don't be afraid to be silly. Don't be afraid if during sex y'all bump heads and you laugh a little bit while his dick is in you. Like, sex can be fun. Sex can be silly. Sex can be awkward. It's all of those things. We are two beings like making a moment. It's not porn and it's not the movies. It's a very real moment. And I think embracing the realness also helps build confidence and helps you realize like, oh yeah, this is just an experience and a great experience. So that's my advice. Let me know how that goes. Feel free to give me some feedback, follow up. I would love to hear, and I would love to know that she's initiating and ravaging you in the bedroom. Okay, on to question number 2. I'm a woman who has been in monogamous relationships with males only so far, but I'm also attracted to women. Do you have any advice for approaching a female? How would you like to be approached by a female? I'm horrible. So we went from like my favorite to like my least favorite part of sex. My favorite part of sex is helping people feel comfy and helping break down those walls and be at ease and present. And my least favorite is hitting on women and trying to initiate with women, not initiate. If I know a woman's attracted, I got it and I can go from there. But with girls, it's with women. We're not girls, we're women. It's so hard because women flirt always. We always tell each other how beautiful we are, how sexy we are, how hot we are. So you don't know if that's a true, like, compliment, if that's somebody truly like shooting their shot. You don't know what it is. And it's very frustrating and very hard to tell. And honestly, every woman I've encountered who is open to women, is in that lifestyle, like a part of the LGBTQ plus community, or even in the lifestyle, like alternative or non-traditional sex lifestyle, swingers, women who sleep with women, all have the same problem and all say the same things. I'm in like a couple lifestyle groups, and it's like a common joke and topic of conversation is, when I see a really hot girl, what do I do? How do I tell her that I want to fuck her without seeming disrespectful? And I think it also has to do with us as women getting approached by men for sex, and how annoying and how, like, not degrading, objectifying that is. When a man tells you he wants to fuck you, it is not as big. Okay, I'm going on my rant right now. The rant earlier at the beginning of the episode that I said it'll come in a later episode is happening right now. So when a man tells you he wants to fuck you, it's not as much of a compliment as I think men think it is. And again, I'm speaking from my own experience, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about this because I feel like it's one of those like skinny girl complaining about being skinny and not being able to gain weight, which I struggled with in my previous like pre-kid days. But it's a real problem. And so is like being somebody who people find attractive and not wanting to be seen. Like I would love to be like attractive to people, but I want to be attractive for so many other things. I want my mind to be attractive. I want my intelligence to be attractive. I want me inspiring you to be attractive. Like again, I'm a sapiosexual, and so the depth and the substance and the true mentality of all of it is what I'm attracted to and what turns me on and what gets me going, I guess. And when I am who I am and just walking in all of me and doing this, like who I am right now in front of you guys, as most of you know, as most of you probably know me, this isn't like a front. These conversations aren't like just, the people who know me aren't like, what? I had no idea Angelica was like this. I had no idea she talked about these things. This is who I am always. When I walk in life, just always in all spaces of my life. Everybody who interacts with me gets this. And I don't like when I'm giving this and it's met with like, your body's great though. Or, yo, I'd really like to fuck you though. Like it just takes all of that away from it for me. And it makes me feel very unseen, regardless of how seen that person is trying to make me feel or how seen that person feels they see me. But it's not as much of a compliment. And I think dealing with that consistently, like women have to, is what makes us so hyper aware, hypersensitive, hyper concerned about how we approach other women, because we don't want to give them that feeling. And we know what that feels like on the receiving end. And we're so scared to do that. I know that that's definitely something that goes through my mind when it comes to initiating and trying to turn a friend out or trying to learn a woman. So honestly, I really don't have much advice for how to approach a female. I think being honest, like going up to a woman and being like, I really think you're sexy and I don't want to be disrespectful because I know how that comes across and I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to approach women. They probably will respond like, oh my gosh, me neither. I'm so glad you said something. And like, probably just like I said about it, like the whole sex thing, probably make it awkward and fun and just real and raw. And that's probably the best. When I think about how I would want to be approached, that's honestly the best and the easiest way for me to receive it. Unless it's something I'm like really attracted to and I've been dropping hints and they've been knowing, at that point, you can just like push me up against a wall and make out with me. But females don't do that. I mean, I haven't met one who does, but yeah, let me know how that goes. Good luck. I really hope you get to experience some new types of experiences. I hope your horizon is broadened. I hope, yeah, and feel free to write us all in and share with all the girls how to do this. How do we approach each other? How do we talk to each other and let each other know that we are DTF in a respectful way? Oh my gosh, side note, I was listening to another podcast and a listener had written into them and said, a listener wrote into the podcast and said, I really want to suck your clit as a friend. And I totally related to that. It was a little creepy, a little too assertive. I don't recommend saying that to people. But I also understand, like, yo, girl, how do I do this? That was somebody who also, another female, who had no idea what she was doing or how to approach. But we're all out here struggling, and that's why we got each other. So feel free to let us know how that goes. Again, share any enlightenment or any other tips you learn along the way that you'd like to share with the class. And again, if you have a question or anonymously kinky question you would like to leave, you can DM me on Instagram at conscious_curly, and I will keep you anonymous. Now, onto our final segment, questions. And we actually got a question this week. I'm so excited. Shout out to the person who wrote in a question. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope this gets a momentum going. You guys ask me anything. It doesn't have to be about me. It can be about, you can ask me advice, not about sex, about like, yo, how do I parent these kids? And I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm not saying I'm the best, but it's a different perspective. What do you do sometimes? Because what I'm doing is driving me crazy and maybe I'd like to do something different 5 days a week. Whatever you have, feel free to write it in. Sorry, I drew a blank there. Okay, back to the question. So they said, you've mentioned before about being sapiosexual, but if you were to be presented with a threesome situation, where do you feel your interest would lie sexually? 50-50 male-female? 60-40? I understand there are many different factors to take into consideration, but overall, generally, do you feel you would be more interested in a particular sex at this point? Sorry, I feel like my mouth is dry. To answer this question, I am a sapiosexual, which means like mental stimulation is what matters to me. And with that, it's really just whoever I am more drawn to mentally is who I'm more attracted to sexually. That's just how it goes, how this works. And I don't know, even in that situation, let me think about other threesomes I've had. No, In that situation, it's really not, I lie, take the mental stuff out. It's really not like, it's 50-50. Let's say 50-50, because I'm very, in a threesome situation, I am very into both parts and pieces and bodies equally. It's very much 50-50. Cool. I had a whole other answer prepared in my head and then really thought about it. And yeah, thanks for asking that question. I learned about myself. If you have any questions about life, love, or any part of the human experience, you can email me at, no, scratch that, reverse. I swear this is my first glass of wine, you guys. Okay. You can email me, askconsciousandcurly, all spelled out, at gmail.com. And that concludes another episode of Conscious and Curly, a place for the human experience. Thank you guys so much for listening, joining, watching. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, share. Keep giving me all the feedback, all the love. I give it all right back to you guys. You guys have a safe week out there. And until next time, peace.